welcome back to my new video. I'm sick today, so if I sound a little, dry, that's why. Today's topic, I'll be talking about Remarried Empress, which is a manhwa. Also it's on Webtoon now. It's being officially translated. It also has a novel, which I have read majority of. The novel, for the most part, got taken down. That's why you gotta watch where y'all be sending y'all links. Like, people used to ask me about the links for like Remarried Empress on one video I made about it. I gave out a couple websites, not that many, because not the main ones, because yeah, these translations for these things that are, well, illegal, well, it is legal, they get taken down very easily, so it's to be noted. But for this discussion video, I want to take more of a kind of free-form kind of conversation route instead of like just like doing bullet point to bullet point. I want to talk about everything Remarried Empress. I have a lot of things I've been thinking about that's been on my mind that you just can't get in a 1-minute video on TikTok. So the first thing I'm going to talk about, we're going to talk about the beginning and some things that I've noticed about Savushu, Rashta, Navier, Henley, now known as Henry on, well, I almost said TikTok, Webtoon. Some things I just got to notice about the characters. And like the way he doesn't, Savushu and Navier's relationship isn't, even before the whole cheating thing happened between them, they never really had a loving relationship. They didn't have a necessarily bad relationship, but they didn't have a really affectionate relationship. And it really definitely affects the way the things that later transpire happen. And also, to be noted, this is a spoiler video, but I feel like that's pretty obvious. But yeah, so for example, when he first brings Rashta home, big red flag. When he brings Rashta home, he never actually introduces Rashta.
No, I'll be back in Atlanta tomorrow. Yes. Hey.
He knew that he was going to bring Rashta home and make her a concubine, but he never actually had that conversation with Navier. And you're probably like, what are you talking about? But the thing is, in this country, polyamory is, when it comes to monarchy, is a standard. Not a standard, but it's like common. So she wouldn't be blind to the fact of that happening. That's why, for example, she's not clawing. Well, Navier is not really that person in the first place, but that's the reason why she's not really fighting with him, because that is in place. This is an actual, it's not being a mistress. Like, it's like a serious position. Even though it's kind of looked down upon because of the stance on it, but it's an actual position. And he never introduces her, and a lot of things, he doesn't even keep etiquette when it comes to the concubine kind of queen relationship status hierarchies. He doesn't, and this is what causes a lot of problems between Rashta and Navier. I made a comment on TikTok about how, like, if Rashta had just stayed in her lane and minded her fucking business, a lot of things that she gets upset with wouldn't have happened in the first place. She brings a lot of problems to herself that aren't necessary, and you can tell she does it on purpose. Like, even though she has a sad backstory, she does these things on purpose. Like, for example, I hated that scene in the manhwa. I seen in the manhwa when he's like, he brings Rashta home, and she was like, when are you gonna tell her? Like, and a good thing that happens later in the chapters is a conversation that Rashta and Savushu it happens like in around, I think, the 30s, definitely later in the manhwa. And he just, every minute, he always brings Rashta up, and she just brings up to the fact that, why do you keep bringing her up? Like, this is not common behavior between kings and queens. She brought up like the past queen. Like, she was like, King Blase, don't remember his name, never brought up Blase's name to the queen. Why do you keep speaking about her? And that is truth. Like, he just always brings her up, and he does a lot of weird things that are just like kind of sickening. Like, Rashta and Savushu's relationship is honestly, I don't really feel like he's in love with her. Well, and even if he is, it's only due to a lack of love he feels from Navier. They both of them kind of express their love languages, and what they need are extremely different. Navier is a person that expresses love through acts of service, standing by him through, you know, being queen, doing all her work, just being loyal. That is how she's been. That's why she, every time she categorizes or someone asks her, like, what is a relationship? Every time she says it, she pretty much says something to the effect like, we're like, you know, he always like makes this thing about business partners. They always say business partners because, you know, business partners, they work together. That is what she sees marriage as, like a finite, like, bond. It doesn't need to be romantic, but even though she is in love with him, not passionately, but she definitely was, that is the case. And he constantly says like, oh, like, you, like, basically implying that she's not affectionate, which is true. And it's not a coincidence that Rashta and Navier are completely different in all ways. It's Silvusha pretty much had a very early midlife crisis because, for example, if you watch Rashta, just on how they look, Rashta and Navier are both attractive, regardless if you hate Rashta, whatever the fuck you want to call her. Rashta is very attractive, but the way they're attractive is kind of different. Navier is very clean cut, very formal, while Rashta is kind of free-flowing. Like, for example, her hair is really curly, very, like, wild, very pretty. She wears very loose clothing, really light clothing for the most part, especially when she's first introduced. From the beginning, since she was a teenager, Navier's hair, for the most part, is really straight, very clean cut. She usually wears like really dark colors, like red. For example, Rashta only wears red when she was copying Navier that one time. I think that's the only time. She doesn't really wear red. She usually wears like blues and pinks. But Navier usually wears like reds and like really dark colors. And she also has very mature features. Like if you look at for example, her nose and her kind of side profile, very mature, longer features, while Rashta has more babyish, kind of innocent features. Another thing to notice about Rashta is like how she like infantilizes herself for like the speaking in third person. Rashta this, Rashta, she disrespected Rashta, she did this to Rashta. It's just like, and I think that kind of behavior is something that Savushu was indeed attracted to, because since her innocent nature and her kind of status as being a concubine, her essence, her being is solely dependent on love, on his love. So she's able to pour in countless affection towards him. All the time. Whoops, I thought I saw something. All the time. That is not really Navier's thing at all. That is not her thing at all. And the funny thing about Savushu is that he complains about a lot of things that Navier does, and like the things she says and how she behaves, but he's extremely contradictory, because the only reason why he's allowed to act this way is because of her kind of cold, kind of queen-like nature in the first place. Like, for example, like he says shit like, oh, are you jealous? Every time something happens to her, are you jealous? And Navier, even if she is, she doesn't really like engage with him, and then he gets angry. And it's just like, and then when he accuses her of being jealous, then he's angry. Like he's like, oh, are you doing this because you're jealous? Like there were several situations where he accused her of like being jealous and like having some kind of specific malice, which truth she does, and will, rightfully so. He gets angry either way, and he does this several times. Like there's the whole situation that happened with Duke, it was Duke Elgie, Duke Cateman, and Henley. They both were like, I don't know how to explain it. They were both kind of seen in his eyes as her love interest. And he goes on this whole like tirade, this whole like, just goes on a whole rant about how she likes foreigners, like over like several chapters about how she likes foreigners.
Let's be clear, it's not a fetish. This is my type. This is what I prefer. It's the only thing I like.
And the question for this is, why does it matter? You have to remember this. He told her himself she can have a lover. But I want y'all to realize the only reason why he said that was because he didn't actually expect her to get a lover. And I feel like regardless if her lover was Henley or not, and it was like a commoner or a butler, whoever, he still would have had a problem. Because she does anything and he's always in her fucking business. And it's just like, I think he only said that to like be like fair, like, oh well, she can't complain that I'm being unfair to her because I said she can have a lover too. Even though I know that she's not the type person to get another lover and date anyone else. And that's why a lot of time he kind of like talks down to her in a romantic sense. There was one scene and he was like, well, you don't have a lot of experience when it comes to men other than me, so you have to be careful. Like, stop, please. It's just like, okay. And then there were some other times where he was like, oh, anyone but Henley, Duke Cateman, Duke Elgie, you're still complaining. It's just like,
We hoes too. Two can play that game, bitch. We do what you do. You see, you holler at my girl and I holler at your boy. I ain't got no feelings, bitch. My heart ain't no toy. When you leave me in the house in the middle of the night, to creep with your bitch, man, that shit is alright. Cause when you leave out the door, I'm out the door too. I'm fucking with your boy, and you know who.
Like, it's just like, it doesn't really make any sense to pretend like you care when you just have obvious double standards. And the funny thing about Savushu is that a lot of times he recognizes he says foolishness, because there's several times throughout this series where he realized he said something dumb, and then the next chapter he will apologize, like, well, I'm sorry, I didn't mean that, because everything that came out your mouth was absolute bullshit. Another thing I find funny is that, like, Rashta's relationship, listen, I really never really liked the way how he kind of infantilizes her even more than she does it to herself. Because there's some times where, like, for example, if Rashta, even if she had the same looks, if Rashta had the same energy and reeked the same energy, was as educated as Navier, he would not have been attracted to her. He's attracted to her because I'm just being honest, she's not that smart. And she's innocent and she's ditzy. And therefore, she's completely dependent on him. He is not attracted to independence. His relationship with Navier and Rashta is the definition between this is Rashta, this is Navier. Rashta, in his eyes, is the epitome of, I don't know how to explain it, passion, affection, someone he can like have this kind of passionate love affair. And noticeably at the end of the series, that dies out because and Navier is the person where he can rule the kingdom with, he can trust her and he can depend on her. He knows damn well he can't depend on Rashta. No, that bitch be lying. I'm sorry, she be fucking lying. And there's some times where he know that bitch be lying and he be covering up for her, and it's just like, oof. But you know who's that's why every time there's another novel, everyone's like, oh my god, is he gonna be like Savushu? Because he's the #1 asshole when it comes to these novels and these manhwas. It's just like, he's fucking annoying. And like, it's just like he just gets out of control. For example, if you notice in the series, when it comes to Navier's infertility, even though he's an asshole, he does a lot of times look kind of like, not necessarily hurt, but conscious. Especially when he questions, after Navier's brother, I forgot his name. I'll put up his name somewhere here. Her brother like crunched her, as he fucking should, because she was running her gums a little bit too much about her infertility. And I love that Navier was just like, what indeed, because she got a little too comfortable when it came to that. Y'all need to remember, this is in a society where a woman's purpose is having children, getting married and having children. And that is how you fulfill life as a woman at these times. These two things: getting married, having a successful marriage, and successfully not only getting pregnant, having a son. And if you don't have these things, you are like, it's terrible. And if you're like infertile, people treat you differently, and especially if you're a queen, they will quickly switch you out, just like as Savushu tried to do. It was just like fuck Rashta and her son. She don't even take care of that other little rascal she got. Raggedy. She's raggedy ass. And it's just like questions like, why would you want to sleep with Rashta? I'm sorry, but like, she acts like she's like 8. It's just like, that's what attracts you? Oof. Like, that's really what attracts you. Rashta, speaking in the third person, acting ditzy. Like, a funny thing that I also noticed was, like, there was a scene where she was talking to Duke Elgi, and I'll call him Elgi. And she was like, she was capping. She was lying, as usual, lying with the, like, girl. And basically, I don't remember exactly what he said verbatim, but basically he called out on the fact that she was just lying. Like, she was just acting up. And she was just like, because, like, he caught her. And it was just like, so stop trying to pretend like there was some person trying to argue the fact that Rashta is a villain. Yes, Rashta is a slave, and y'all shouldn't really use that against her, but it's not that she's a slave that's the problem. It's more so the things she does. For example, things that were not necessary that Rashta has done in this series include the whole letter fiasco. Why would you do that? Yeah, and a lot of people act this as Rashta doesn't have emotional intelligence. She does. Her saying that nonsense about how Navier and her are sisters. The dress fiasco. Let me ask you a question. What about her pretending like she was having letters with Prince Henley, and wearing the same dress? How does that benefit her in the long run, for her to be like cementing her position? Tell me, how does that help? Another thing, instead of, for example, educating herself, which she tries to do, but I'll get to that. Educating herself, learning to read, learning how to deal with finances, learning how to learning her etiquette, and all that good stuff. She focuses on nonsense to hurt Navier's feelings. And like, she pissed me off from the beginning when she was like, oh, like, we're sisters, we share the same husband. Or she would like kind of look down on like Navier feeling a type way. But in the same breath, this was one of my favorite scenes, is when Navier was like, oh, sisters, okay, you can be sisters with the next concubine when she comes. And she got upset. So that means that you recognize that this situation is ghetto. Or also, when it was Navier's birthday and she was triggered, when y'all was running a buck in the woods, I'm assuming they were fucking in those woods, because she got pregnant way too quickly. But when you were fucking in those woods and you came over there talking about his concubine, you thought that was okay. She didn't think that was okay. She knew she was being bitchy. She just didn't care. She does not have the equipment to be acting the way she does. Let me say this. Rashta does not have the equipment to act the way she does. No, she doesn't. She's cute. Yeah, she's very attractive. Is she smart? No. Does she have any kind of technique or skills or talent? No. And then she's just annoying. So it's just like, no, like, she's not really smart. And that's why got spoilers that basically Rashta is known as being one of the worst empresses. Damn right. Damn motherfucking right. Because she doesn't do shit of value. Not a goddamn thing that she does. Name one thing she does other than fuck Savushu and get pregnant. Yeah, okay. So I think since I talked about a couple of these topics, I'm going to talk about one last topic, because I don't want this video to be too long. I have so much more to say, but it's just like, no. Another thing that I want to talk about Navier and Henley, because I think we have, like, this is about them. We have to talk about them. Navier has, I'm gonna talk about Navier in general. Navier is, I like Navier. Navier is not my favorite main character. Definitely one of up there. Definitely not on the low tier. But I think it's more so kind of like, I like her as a person, but I'm not in love with her, but I more so pity her and her situation and just want her to succeed than anything else. If you watch, I want you to go back to the manhwa, the chapter 1. It's pretty much obvious that from the beginning that Navier has identity issues. There's no coincidence that, did I say this already? I feel like I had deja vu, but if I did say this already, whoopsie. But yeah, it's no coincidence that she became queen of another kingdom after being queen of this kingdom, because she's been raised from Jump Street to become a queen, and that is why she just kind of acts like that. And to watch her and Henley kind of get along, he's completely different from her, and there's a lot of times where they're levels of maturity show, because obviously if you don't, Navier is older than him. Like for example, in the novel there's like there's this 18+ scene of them having like, well, it's not explicit, I don't think, yeah, no, it's not that explicit. I mean, it's not, but you know, Henley's known as being a Casanova. That's Cap. My boy's a virgin. Navier, obviously not. I mean, yeah. So, and he's like, oh, like, you know, can you help me? Okay. That is a lot. Yeah, and like, I think he's really sweet to her, and I feel like it's the perfect thing, because you have to notice that some people are like puzzles. Savushu and Navier cannot fulfill each other fully. He needs a lot of affection. Navier does not give it. It's not working. And then the reverse, Navier needs someone that respects that she's not affectionate, but still like loves her. No, that doesn't work. Henley kind of, if you've seen a lot of times in his Inside Thoughts, Henley is actually attracted to her cold nature, and knows that she's like actually a very sweet and genuine person, which everyone knows that for the most part. And he likes that. And also he is openly affectionate, where Navier feels cared for, loved. So that is a something that I think they work very well. And that's the kind of, and there's a reason why like Savushu and Rasha don't work well, because, you know, is anyone else so confused? Do y'all think that Rasha really like actually has feeling? She confused me when I was reading. Like, I couldn't really put my finger on it if she was really into him, or this was like, sometimes I was just like, do you love him or do you like the position? Do you love him, but do you love the position? Because there were a lot of times where she was just like, it felt very disingenuous. Very disingenuous. It was just like, and same thing with him. It's just like, is this love or lust? To me, it's borderline lust. Very much. Very much. And honestly, the curtains, they will come off very soon. There's a lot to get through. We're not even in the moment. We're not even up to the divorce. Mind y'all, there's still a lot of stuff to go on after divorce. Like, they have to fall in love. There's a lot of things that happens in the, is it the Eastern Empire? No, West. Oh, what empire are they in? I think one is the Western and one is the Eastern. Where are we? I think Henley's Western. Yeah, so like the Western Empire, yeah, there's a lot of shit that goes on. Like, there's like a whole like secondary female lead in that arc, I believe. So like that's that. And yeah, there's just a lot to talk about that I could do, but I'm not feeling well. So like I think this is the end of this video. Next week I'll be doing my Villainous Reverses the Hourglass video, so subscribe to me if you want to see that. And art videos, I have like another art study video I did like last week. Was it last week? Yeah, like last week, coming up in like 2 weeks. So if you like stuff like that, also check me out. Follow my TikTok, my Instagram, all that good stuff if you want to see more. So see you guys in the next video. Bye.
Kiss me, breathe me, touch me, say you love me. 창가의 햇살이 잠든 널 깨우네요. 꿈속의 그 미소 그대로 웃으며 또다시 그대가 찾아와 주네요. 그댈 위해